All right, First Nephi 16 is an interesting chapter because this is where we learn just about some of the attitudes that we as humans can take towards following the Lord's counsel and his guidance and our responses to things that happen to us in life. So as you read through this chapter, you're going to read about how Nephi ends up marrying one of the daughters of Ishmael. And remember, Nephi and his brothers had to go back to Jerusalem to gather Ishmael and his daughters and his family and convince them to come with them into the wilderness on their way to the American continent. And so it's really good that the Lord had all this kind of in a good plan, because he needed to raise a righteous people. He needed to raise people in the American continent. So obviously they needed wives to be able to have children, right? But we come across a device that's called the Liahona in this chapter as well. And it kind of guides their course, like we read in the chapter heading here. It guides them through the wilderness, Nephi and his family, this Liahona, that one morning Nephi and his dad actually wakes up and it's just outside of their tent. And this is kind of what it would have looked like, according to scholars and some of our imaginations, right? There's not really a way to know other than it's something that might have looked like this and functioned somehow, maybe have opened in half or whatnot. So kind of like a compass, but would still be able to have writings engraved into it, enough to spook Lehi, writings that would make him tremble. So obviously the Lord could communicate to Lehi through this as well somehow, kind of like some sort of a almost like a compass with some sort of text in it or something. But when we read around this, I want you to think about what some of these things might symbolize. Like, what does the Liahona symbolize? And if it does symbolize something like following the Spirit or, being obedient, like those things, look at the results of following the Liahona in this chapter. And then look at the results of sin in this chapter. Like, what does not having faith in the Lord's directions, what results does that produce versus what results does having faith in the Lord's directions prove for you? So as you read through this, draw your own conclusions as you read through this chapter, and just pay attention to how Nephi reacts faithfully through this chapter compared to even his father, the prophet, and then obviously his brothers, Laman and Lemuel, as you read through this. And really taking advantage of that throughout this chapter. So that's all that I'll say in this for the overview. Pretty short, but also notice that the Lord is patient and he's completely fine chastening us, which means to correct us and kind of have some real talk and let us know hey, we do need to do some repenting and we need to adjust our life a little bit. And sometimes the Lord chastens us maybe through thoughts and feelings of the Spirit, and other times it might be through other people, like the words of a prophet or the words of an apostle, and we might recognize those things. And if we're humble and we respond to those things, obviously there will be blessings, because that's the only reason why he does that, is he wants us to receive all that he has. And we need to be in a state and at a capacity to be able to receive all that he has for us. So that is 1 Nephi 16. Enjoy.